Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be doing my August native plant garden tour. We've actually had a lot of rain for my area, so things are especially happy in the garden. So I'm very excited to show you the tour. But before I do, I wanted to share that I found some monarch eggs this season, which I'm so thrilled about. I actually took a little video of the monarch eggs and I'll put it up here in the link just in case you'd like to see how you can find monarch eggs on your property as well. So let me get to the videos. Thank you so much for watching. So let's start in my boulevard gardens. Here we have the beautiful sunny Lanceleaf Coreopsis. Please don't mind my purple hands. I just did tie-dye with my daughters and apparently I should have been wearing gloves even as a bystander. So these are the Lanceleaf Coreopsis. The blooms are gorgeous. They've been blooming for a while. This one here has passed, so this one will start to set seed. This one here has passed a while back, and now the seeds are starting to look ripe. And when they're dry and crispy, they're ready to collect. So I'll collect some of these and share them with friends, maybe sow in other areas of the garden as well. Here is my Prairie Smoke, and it's looking awesome. Lots of leaves, lots of new leaves even. Got some baby leaves coming in right there. So it's looking great. This is pretty much what I expect it to look like for the rest of the year. There's just some nice green foliage after our beautiful spring flowers and those awesome seed heads that give it its Prairie Smoke name. Here are two young Prairie Smoke. These were new to us this year from Ontario Native Plants. So we've got two here and another one in another part of our boulevard garden, and they seem to be very happy here. Here's my wild blue lupin, and I'm not going to lie, this plant is looking a little ratty right now. You can see that the leaves are looking a little dry and a little gnarly. Apparently, other folks, their lupins are looking quite similar right now at this time of year. But I did want to note the seed heads have all opened up. They have unfurled. So if you want to catch these seeds, you got to do so before they unfurl like this. See, they've all opened and they've dropped. I swear I'm going to collect these each year, and I just don't get them quite in time. And so that's why we have lots of little babies that are sprouting up in this part of the garden, which is fine by me as well. Over here, right by the road, so excuse the cars going by, are our two volunteer milkweeds. We have some swamp milkweed here and then some common milkweed here. And you can see that both are making seed pods, so that's pretty exciting. We had some pollination occur clearly, and now these are starting to produce lots of seeds. These are the swamp milkweed, and then here is the common milkweed seed pods as well. So once they get all dry and crispy, then I can harvest them and share them with others, because if they're just left alone, they will fly away in the wind, and who knows if they'll get weeded out of gardens. We want these to turn into more milkweed plants purposefully as opposed to just kind of volunteered. Beside my milkweeds, we've got some nodding onion. Nothing has happened yet this year with these, so hopefully next year we'll get some flowers, but right now they kind of look a little bit like grass. Here in the center of our boulevard garden is our blazing star. So this has not bloomed yet, so it has taken a bit of time to grow from a very, very small plug. So hoping that next year it'll establish itself well and we'll get some flowers. Here's my prickly pear cactus. I had a flower right here, and it was doing great, although I didn't get a picture of it while it was in full bloom, and that is the best way to identify the plant. So I'm not entirely positive that this is the Eastern prickly pear cactus or perhaps another variety, so I might have to wait to next year to confirm that. Here's my new bottle gentian. I just got this from Origin Native Plants this year, and I might even get a bloom. So that would be pretty exciting. Maybe it will even be as purple as my fingers. Very, very cool. Fingers crossed for that. Here is my wild basil plant, and I did get some flowers, and it looks like it's already setting seed and that I might have missed them. Perhaps I will have to keep a better lookout next year and get that for you guys. But you can see that they have that kind of tiered behavior similar to the spotted bee balm. So a cool plant, not apparently as flavorful as our culinary basil, but something that is awesome in the garden for pollinators. Here is our Foxglove Beardtongue, and I'm not expecting any flowers. This is a new young plant from the rare plant sale that I got this year. So it's just getting its footing, I think. Here we have our little blue stem plant looking really good. This plant stood up a little bit better this year. Last year it kind of flopped over a bit and it needed some support. I've got one here and one kind of in the back there, and you can see that it has that very cool kind of misty, minty kind of green foliage, and I just love it. Here's my sneezeweed, and right now it's about 3 feet tall or so. It's got lots of these adorable kind of button nose flowers, which I think are super cute. And this plant can get about 4 to 5 feet tall in the right conditions. So I'm not sure if it's just getting itself settled here, or if it will get bigger, or if this is kind of based on the conditions right here as big as it'll get. So we will see over time. Here is our patch of black raspberry. Very, very cool plant. Was so happy to find some beautiful black raspberries this year. I think we're all done now. They're all gone. Most of them got eaten up by tiny little fingers, which is awesome. And we've got lots of growth here. So hoping to have an awesome little patch of this in our garden next year. Here in between our peonies over here and our hostas over here that look like they got chopped by a lawnmower, we've got our serviceberry bush in the middle here. It's doing okay, though I do see that we've got some powdery mildew starting. So not a big problem. It's not going to cause a lot of damage to the plant, so we'll just leave it be. Here at the side of our house, we've got our New England Aster. This guy is awesome. He's doing so great. We've got a ton of blooms coming. Now, I didn't end up Chelsea chopping this as I had intended, so it's nice and tall, and we've got lots of beautiful flowers just on their way. I expect these to come in the next few weeks or so. Over here in the corner, we've got our bright and beautiful butterfly weed. I just love this plant. It is so gorgeous. It pretty much stays put, though it can spread by seed, and we've got seeds coming. These are the seed pods here. So at the same time that we have flowers and blooms, we've got seed pods forming. There's a whole bunch coming along. So similar to the other milkweeds, I'll collect these and share them with others to make sure that they are purposefully put in gardens as opposed to kind of just blowing away in the wind. Here in our part shade garden, we've got some golden Alexanders, and this is a host plant to the black swallowtail butterfly. And we had some flowers, and now we've got a couple little seeds forming, clearly a web of some kind, some creature. So hopefully those seeds will survive and fall to the ground and maybe make some more golden Alexanders for us. Here in our part shade garden, we've got a wee baby red bud tree, and this has the beautiful little heart-shaped leaves, and this is pretty much doubled in size this season at least, but this is still going to get a good 15-20 feet high. So it's kind of on the side here of my garden behind my little lending library, and I think it's going to look awesome here as it grows over time. Here, kind of hiding between my non-native Rudbeckia goldstrum, and we've got some near native echinacea over here. We've got our wild columbine plant. Now this plant at this point in time is looking a little ratty. I have it in another area in my garden, and it does kind of look a little sparse and kind of wonky, but right here it looks great. All of the seed heads are all dry, so the seeds are ready for harvesting. And I will be definitely collecting some of these and also leaving them to kind of establish more in this part of the garden and get eaten up by critters too. That's what they're here for. Over here, kind of getting crowded out by some non-native plants that we'll have to move about, is our heartleaf foam flower. And this plant is not a very aggressive plant. So if you're looking for something that stays put, this one doesn't grow too much in size as far as my experience is. We have some new leaves growing in here, and it does send out runners, but really it has pretty much stayed put over the years. Here is our marginal fern, and it is doing great, though it is getting crowded out a little bit by our Japanese anemone as well. I really like mixing it with our non-native hostas in the shady garden, and this guy has some spores as well. So this is doing great. This is how this plant reproduces. So really love this plant in the shady garden, especially because it can tolerate dryness and drought as well. Here we have a couple of our patches of Canada anemone. So we've got one here. I transplanted this last year and it seemed to think it needed to stay at the front. We have some younger ones in the middle, and then the ones that I transplanted in the back, not as happy. But we've got seeds coming, so that's kind of cool. There's some seeds developing. And I'm actually just going to let these fall. And if they get eaten up by the critters as well, that's all right. But we're going to actually put these in the ground here. It's a little dry. It's going to rain today. So hopefully it'll get some moisture. And then we'll have even more of this in this area. Apparently this is quite an aggressive grower. So just keep that in mind. It's a little more aggressive than some other ground covers that I have, like Foamflower. In the back, standing nice and tall, is our Solomon seal. So this will be nice and tall throughout the rest of the season, and then it'll dry and it will stay tall even into the winter months, and it has quite nice winter interest. So an awesome plant all year round. Here is my new wild ginger that I got from Origin Native Plants this year. Very excited for this plant. It has very cool flowers that grow actually underneath the leaves. So I will look forward to those next spring, and they will grow into kind of a low growing mat. So I'm really hoping that this kind of flourishes in the couple spots that I put it in my gardens. Here is our 99% pure native plant shade garden, and I'll go in and give you details of everything now. Here's our wild trillium, and I was kind of expecting this to kind of go away. It's an ephemeral plant, so I was expecting the leaves to kind of wither and go, but they're still here. They are looking a little ratty. We had seeds over here, but the seeds have gone, so I'm not sure if they fell to the ground or if they got nibbled up by critters, but either way, it's still kicking around. Beside our white trillium is our Jack in the Pulpit. Now this plant did develop seeds. It had this little seed pod, but it looks like it's actually being nibbled away, and these seeds definitely didn't develop into something viable. So that's all right. It had flowers, so I'm happy. It'll come back next year, and hopefully we'll get some of those nice seeds that are bright and red next year come this time. We've got some great blue lobelia. This one is not as tall as the sunnier spots, but it does look like it's going to bloom. We might even have one little bloom starting right there. Then down in the back here, we have our lady fern, also doing very well, despite this not being too wet of a spot in the garden. I thought it might need more wet conditions, but it's doing fine. In the back, we have our two choke cherry trees. So this will be quite large, and that was the idea. I kind of wanted it to fill in the back here, and I may have to cut it back over time because it will get quite large, 15 feet or so. Here is our large leafed aster, and it's all in bloom, so looking really pretty. Don't mind the purple fingers. And we've got a little one down here as well, and this one is not blooming. So hopefully they'll all be happy enough to bloom next year because this is a fairly new plant. In the back here, we've got our Zigzag Goldenrod. This is starting to come to bloom as well. Their little flowers are starting here. So we'll show you those when they go into bloom, hopefully in the next week or so. And this plant does look a little wrinkly, so I'm not sure if it's getting enough water as per what it would like, but I won't be watering it any more than it's getting, so hopefully it can withstand the conditions it's in. Here is our bush honeysuckle in the middle. It's not getting too big, and I've got a couple of leaves here that look different than the middle, so not sure if I'm competing with a couple plants going on, but hoping that this will get a nice good 4 feet or so to kind of stand up in the middle and have a bit of an arch from the choke cherry to the honeysuckle and then up to the bottlebrush grass over here. So this has all gone to seed and it looks awesome. Very cool plant. Although I do think it might, again, need a little bit more water as well. So we'll see how this manages in this part of the garden because, again, it's not going to get much more water than what it has received this year so far. And then all in the front here is our Woodland Strawberry. And you can see that it's kind of gotten a little sparse in the spot. So I'm not quite sure why, because it's super happy over here. So we'll let it just fight itself out and hopefully it will fill in nicely everywhere. I'd like it for a ground cover in much of the shade garden. And then here, hidden by our peonies, is our Christmas fern, another happy fern in our shady garden. And it had spores. Oh, and it still does. Yeah, so it has spores as well. So that's very cool. And then we had some Dutchman's breeches over here, which are just super tiny. And hopefully next year it will be even bigger and maybe even get some of those very cool flowers. Here we have a volunteer Fleabane, and it had tons of adorable little white daisy-like flowers. The pollinators were all happy over here in a spot that generally doesn't have very many flowers. So I'm pretty happy that this just appeared. And I'll let it do its thing and go to seed. Maybe others will have some in their gardens after this as well. Here we have our beautiful swamp milkweed plant. This plant was grown from seed, and this was the first year that it bloomed. And we had a ton of beautiful blooms that the pollinators definitely loved. I even saw a monarch coming and laying eggs. So hopefully there's some caterpillars hiding in there amongst the leaves. Fingers crossed on that one for sure, because that's the whole point of this thing. Now, this plant is in very moderately moist soil. This is not a very moist garden, so despite it being called swamp milkweed, it is doing absolutely fine here, and I'm loving it in the garden. Here, kind of hiding in amongst the hydrangea plants, we've got our pale purple coneflower, and it is looking awesome. We've got some blooms here. I think there are more coming up from down there as well. I put this in a tomato cage because this is a very tall plant, and when it's small like this, it really flopped over last year. So it's looking great, standing up nice and tall in its happy home in the tomato cage. Over here, kind of hiding amongst the obedient plant, is our pitiful little patch of Scarlet Beebalm. Now, this has really not done as well as I was hoping. I moved this over here to get some more sunlight, and really it is not too amazing, though I do have some little stalks here. We've had some flowers. The flowers looked amazing, of course, because they're a beautiful flower. They've gone to seed now. So we'll leave these here for the critters, and hopefully it will drop seed and grow even better in this spot. It does branch out through rhizomes on the ground and little runners, and I don't see too many of those going on down there, but I will probably have to take out some of the competing factors, like some of the strawberry here that I'll have to yoink out. Here, standing up nice and tall, is the obedient plant, which is one of my favorite plants in the garden. This will bloom for a while. It blooms from the bottom up. So you see that it had already bloomed down here, and then up it comes. We've got some blooms here, and then these are still to come. Such a cool plant in the garden. It is an aggressive grower. And here, I'm going to show you why it's called obedient plant. You move the little flower heads and they stay put. So that's why it's called obedient plant, not necessarily because it is obedient in the garden. And this is a pollinator magnet. So definitely good to have. And if you don't want it spreading too aggressively, you can deadhead it and share the seeds with friends like I do. Over here, we've got my new Paw Paw plant. I finally put these in the ground. They're looking okay, though they are getting some nibbles and might need a little bit more water. I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to this plant than I do some of my other native plants, just to make sure that it establishes itself well. So I have two plants, and I'm really hoping I have a male and a female, because you need both to produce fruit. And I probably won't find out for a very, very long time, because this is a new baby wee plant that will need to grow for, I'm going to guess 4, 5, 6 years before I even see the likes of a flower. So we will see, and we will hold our breath until then. Here's my second red bud plant. You can see that I had some leaf cutter bees nibbling away on this leaf here to use to protect their babies. So very cool seeing it being used even before it has flowers for the pollinators. So awesome. And again, this plant will grow 20 feet or so. So I'm hoping my neighbor won't mind this, and we've already chatted. So hopefully that this will be something we both can enjoy over time. Here's my baby paper birch tree. This tree is looking a little haggard, but that's okay. It's got lots of leaves, and they're all nice and green. Last year, I lost the leaves early in the fall, so hoping that this year it'll hold on a little longer, and I might have to do a little bit better protection this year because it really didn't survive well after the winter, but it is doing okay. So maybe it's just getting its footing, and hopefully it'll grow bigger and better every year, and we'll have a lovely paper birch to enjoy in our backyard. At about 6 feet tall, we have our American bellflower. This had a ton of pretty purple flowers. I'll go in and show you a close-up right here. Very cute little flowers. And now that I've had so many flowers, I'm expecting many, many seeds. So if you have experience with this plant and you think I should be deadheading this so that I don't have a million volunteers in the garden, I do not want that. So maybe give me a little tip, or maybe I will let it go and the birds will eat it and it's not a problem. So just let me know how it works in a suburban garden if you've got that experience. Down here, we've got our morning star sedge. Now this had seed pods. Hey, check it out. I've got some seed pods. So whatever gobbled up the other ones, missed a few. Are these not the coolest things? Very, very cool. So now, awesome. I'm very happy that I actually do have seed pods, because I would like to collect a few and have some more morning star sedge, and hoping that it will also kind of spread in here as well. And I'm seeing some sad news here. This is our Michigan lily. Is this normal? Oh no, all three, 1, 2, 3, are all looking dry and brown down and not happy at all. Oh, that's making me nervous that that might be a sign that they're gonzo. So hopefully not, and maybe they'll come back next year. Is this normal in your gardens? Please do let me know. Virginia mountain mint over here going to flower. Look at the tiny little flowers. Aren't they so cute? They're adorable. And again, we've got a couple of different blooms coming on the one stalk. So another cool arrangement. This is a low growing plant. It's kind of looking bushy over here, and it's at the back of my garden. So I might have to move it a bit to put it at the front because it's not really a back of the garden plant in my opinion. And then over here, kind of hard to see, is our hairy beardtongue. This has gone to seed. So we'll let that do its thing, and maybe we'll get a bunch more of it in the garden. You can see I've got some over here as well. And there's the little seed pod. My purple fingers. Over here, we've got another one of my wild columbines. And so this is the one that I'm thinking looks a little wonky in the garden. So I'm not sure. I'll probably collect these seeds in particular and share them with friends and kind of scatter them in some spots that I'd like more wild columbine. But the other one looks a little bit more tidy. So tell me what you guys do with your wild columbine in the garden. And if it's also this big, this is a good 4 feet tall right now. Here's my spotted beebalm. This was grown from seed, and this is the first year that I've got blooms. And take a look at them. Are they not the coolest things? They have just a tiered level of blooms, and they have all sorts of tiny flowers. So those are the little flowers there. Oh, we've got a little pollinator friend over there. These are the little flowers, these spotted guys right here, spotted beebalm, right? This here, they are called sepals. Maybe someone can help me on the pronunciation there. And they're actually like little leaves. So the flower is actually a collection of flowers at various tiers. So very, very cool plant. Very happy to have it blooming now in my garden. Here we've got 3 little patches of white turtle head. And you can see that we've got some flowers coming. One right here. And another one a little bit bigger over here. And then there's this plant, and I'm not quite sure what this plant is because it doesn't look quite the same. So if you know what this guy is, please do let me know. It has some little white spots on it too, which are also curious to me. So if you know what these spots are or what this plant is, do let me know in the comments below so we can learn and see if I should be keeping this or if it is a invasive or anything. We'll be getting it out. Here is our bonus set, this one here and this here. We have some flowers coming along, though it is looking pretty unhappy. I've got a lot of dried leaves here, so not sure if this is the right spot for this plant, as it looks like it might need a bit more water than it's getting here. And this is probably one of the wetter conditions in my yard. So this is where it's going to live, and it'll live or die plant. That's your choice. Here's the happiest of my great blue lobelia. This is in a part sun condition, and it is kind of more of the moist side in my gardens. And we've got tons of blooms coming along. They're so beautiful, and they're much bigger than last year. Last year, this plant was probably a foot tall or so. And this year, it's probably a good 3.5, 4 feet tall. Here we've got some woodland sunflower. One here, another one at the front, and then a couple at the back. And they're doing great. Lots of lovely little flowers. And then hopefully we'll get some seeds and have even more of it. This is a gorgeous plant and seems to be doing quite fine in our part shade garden. Over here beside our other American bellflower, we've got our itty bitty baby spice bush plant. So this guy's a good 1.5 to 2 feet tall right now. And this will get a good 15, 20 feet as well. So again, another spot where I'm hoping it'll grow nice and full. And for now, it's just a wee little thing. Here is our volunteer goldenrod. This is a Canada goldenrod, if I am correct. And I'm just going to let it do its thing over here. After it goes to flower, I'm going to deadhead it so that it doesn't make a zillion billion babies like I found in other spots in the garden. And this will also spread by rhizomes down in the ground. So I'm okay with this. This is fine in this part of the garden. It can't go too far. So I'm all right with that. And it's beside another one of our great blue lobelias as well. And finally, we have our seedlings and our smooth rose. This is our smooth rose right here. It has a couple little caterpillars on it. And unfortunately, they are not native caterpillars. And I was hoping that they'd get gobbled up by the birds, but they have not. So whatever, I'm not really about yoinking them off. Apparently they won't do too much damage, so we'll leave them be and see what happens next. Here is the last survivor of my acorn seedlings. I had 3 and now I have 1. One got straight up stolen. The other one definitely died. It was dry and crispy. And then this one is still holding on, though it does look a little stressed. I've got something going on this leaf. If you think I should chop that off, then please let me know. Either way, if this survives the winter, I will be surprised. I may have to start new from fresh new acorns next year. We will see. So here is our wild bergamot seedlings, and this needs to be repotted so I can give more space to these guys so they can flourish. We've got some rock harlequin down here. It is quite tiny, so we're going to leave it in here until it gets a little bigger. And then we've got our Korean mint, which I thought was anise hyssop, and it is not, so bummer there. And then back here, the plant that I was trying to identify before, it's snapdragon, so not native at all. But lots of things going on and very happy with how things are progressing. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found the video interesting and helpful. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more native plant garden tours, gardening tips, and adventures along the way. Thanks again and happy gardening.